Imagine the roar of engines on a pitching aircraft carrier deck, the spray of ocean waves, and the heart-pounding moment when a bomber, never meant for such a task, lifts off into the unknown. On April 18, 1942, 16 North American B-25 Mitchell bombers did just that, embarking on a mission that would etch their names into history. This was the Doolittle Raid, a daring strike against the Japanese mainland that shattered the illusion of invincibility and changed the course of World War II. How could a small force of medium bombers challenge a mighty empire? Let's explore the audacious plan, the impossible takeoff, the low-level bombing of Tokyo, and the harrowing fates of the crews in China. A story of courage, sacrifice, and unforeseen consequences. The seeds of the Doolittle Raid were sown in the dark days following Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The United States, reeling from the loss of battleships, aircraft, and over 2,000 lives, yearned for a way to strike back. The American public's morale was low, and military leaders sought a bold operation to demonstrate that Japan, despite its string of victories across the Pacific, was not beyond reach. In January 1942, General Henry Hap Arnold, commander of the United States Army Air Forces, turned to Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, a celebrated aviator and aeronautical engineer, known for his daring flying feats and innovative thinking. Doolittle proposed an unprecedented plan to launch medium bombers from a Navy aircraft carrier to bomb Japanese cities, then fly on to land in China, the North American B-25. Mitchell, a twin-engine medium bomber named after General Billy Mitchell, a pioneer of military aviation, was selected for the mission. Introduced in 1941, the B-25 was renowned for its versatility, ruggedness, and ability to take off from short runways, making it the ideal candidate for this extraordinary task. Its wingspan fit the carrier's deck, and its range allowed it to reach Japan and continue to China, though the margins were razor-thin. To prepare for the mission, 24 B-25s from the 17th Bombardment Group were modified at Mid-Continent Airlines in Minneapolis. Non-essential equipment was stripped to reduce weight and increase range. The lower gun turret was removed, and the tail guns were replaced with broomsticks to simulate armament, deterring enemy fighters while saving weight. Additional fuel tanks were installed, boosting the aircraft's range to over 2,000 miles. Each bomber carried 4 500-pound bombs, 3 high-explosive, and 1 bundle of incendiaries designed to scatter over a wide area. In a symbolic gesture, the bombs were fitted with Japanese friendship medals, originally bestowed upon American officials before the war, now returned with a message of defiance. To aid accuracy while saving weight, the sophisticated Norden bomb sight was replaced with a simple aluminum device nicknamed the Mark Twain, sufficient for the raid's purposes. Inked, the crews, all volunteers, were drawn from the 17th Bombardment Group stationed at Pendleton, Oregon. Doolittle assembled the squadron leaders in Columbia, South Carolina, in February 1942, asking for volunteers for a dangerous mission requiring takeoffs from a mere 500 feet of runway. His reputation as a leader inspired immediate commitment. 80 men, forming 16 crews of 5 each, underwent intensive training at Eglin Field, Florida, under the guidance of Navy pilot Lieutenant Henry L. Miller from Pensacola Naval Station. They practiced taking off within 300 feet, a fraction of the normal distance, mastering cross-country and night flying, low-level bombing, and evasive maneuvers. The training was grueling, but the crews knew the mission's success depended on their precision and skill. On March 31st and April 1st, 1942, the 16 modified B-25s were loaded onto the aircraft carrier USS Hornet at Alameda Naval Air Station near San Francisco. The Hornet, a Yorktown-class carrier commissioned in 1941, was chosen for its spacious flight deck, capable of accommodating the bombers. The task force, designated Task Force 16, was commanded by Vice Admiral William F. Halsey, Jr., aboard the carrier USS Enterprise, which provided air cover and additional escorts, including cruisers, destroyers, and the light cruiser USS Nashville. On April 2nd, the task force set sail across the Pacific, maintaining strict radio silence to avoid detection. The crews were not informed of their target until they were at sea, learning only that they would bomb Japan and attempt to land in China, a mission fraught with uncertainty. As the Hornet steamed toward Japan, the tension aboard was palpable. The B-25s, secured on the flight deck, took up nearly the entire length, leaving no room for normal carrier operations. The crew spent their days studying maps, checking equipment, and mentally preparing for the unknown. On April 18, 1942, the task force was still 650 miles east of Tokyo when disaster struck. Japanese picket boat number 23, Nito Maru, spotted the American ships. Fearing the element of surprise was lost, Doolittle and Halsey made a critical decision: launch the raid immediately. 10 hours earlier, and 170 nautical miles farther from Japan than planned. This meant the bombers would have insufficient fuel to reach the designated airfields in China, increasing the peril for the crews. The sea was rough, with waves crashing over the Hornet's bow, spraying the deck with salt water. Despite the adverse conditions, the 16 B-25s prepared for takeoff, each loaded with bombs, extra fuel, and the hopes of a nation. To facilitate the launch, the Hornet steamed at full speed into the wind, providing additional airflow over the wings. Each bomber was positioned at the rear of the flight deck to maximize the available runway, a mere 467 feet. Doolittle's plane, Crew Number 1, was the first to launch. As Lieutenant Ted Lawson, pilot of Crew Number 7, recalled in his book 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, a Navy man stood at the bow with a checkered flag, signaling Doolittle to rev his engines. With the flag spinning faster, Doolittle pushed the throttles to full power, the engines roaring against the wind. The plane raced down the deck, seemed to hang in the air for a moment, then clawed its way upward, clearing the waves by mere feet. The sight was both thrilling and terrifying, a testament to the crew's skill and courage. One by one, the remaining 15 bombers followed, each takeoff a heart-stopping spectacle. The launches took just over an hour, a remarkable achievement for aircraft never designed for carrier operations. The B-25s, heavily laden with over 2,000 pounds of bombs and fuel, defied expectations, proving the ingenuity of the plan and the determination of the raiders. As the last plane lifted off, the Hornet and its escorts turned back, evading Japanese pursuit, while the bombers headed toward their targets, flying individually at low altitude to avoid detection. Arriving over Japan around noon Tokyo time, the B-25s climbed to bombing altitudes between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. They targeted military and industrial sites, carefully selected to disrupt Japan's war-making capabilities. In Tokyo, the bombers struck an oil tank farm, a steel mill, and several power plants, critical to the Japanese war effort. In Yokosuka, Lieutenant Edgar E. McElroy's crew hit the nearly completed light carrier Ryuho, delaying its commissioning until November 1942. Other targets included military facilities and factories in Yokohama, Nagoya, Kobe, and Osaka. Lawson described his attack on a Tokyo steel smelter. There was just time to get up there, level off, attend to the routine of opening the bomb bay, make a short run, and let fly with the first bomb. The red light blinked on my instrument board, and I knew the first 500-pounder had gone. He watched as explosions erupted below, sending plumes of smoke into the sky. Despite light anti-aircraft fire and a few Kawasaki Ki-61 Hien fighters, none of the B-25s were shot down, and only one sustained minor damage. The element of surprise worked in their favor, as the Japanese were unprepared for an attack from such a distance. The bombing runs lasted mere seconds, but their impact would resonate far beyond the physical damage inflicted. However, due to the challenges of precision bombing from medium altitude, some bombs fell on civilian areas, including 6 schools and an army hospital, resulting in approximately 50 Japanese deaths and 400 injuries. While the raid's intent was to target military and industrial sites, these unintended casualties highlighted the complexities of wartime operations. After dropping their bombs, the crews turned westward, navigating toward China. The early launch had depleted their fuel reserves, making it impossible to reach the designated airfields in Chuchao, Lishui, and Yushan. 15 of the 16 bombers either crash-landed or had their crews bail out over Japanese-occupied China. One bomber, piloted by Captain Edward J. York, ran critically low on fuel and diverted to the Soviet Union, landing near Vladivostok. The Soviet Union, neutral in the Pacific War, interned York's crew and aircraft for over a year before allowing them to escape to Iran. In China, the crews faced perilous fates. Many landed in darkness, with heavy rain and poor visibility complicating their descents. Parachuting into unknown territory, they risked injury or capture. Those who crash-landed faced the danger of their planes breaking apart. Lawson's crew, for example, attempted to land on a Chinese beach in driving rain. As their engines failed, the B-25 crashed into the water, submerging Lawson, who unbuckled his seat strap only to realize he was severely injured. Unable to swim, he was rescued by his crew and Chinese locals, though his injuries required the amputation of his left leg. Many crews were met with extraordinary kindness from Chinese civilians and guerrilla fighters. Pilot Harold Watson was welcomed by Ma Englin in Iwang, who provided food and shelter. In Linchuan, priests cared for airmen, offering fried chicken, dressing wounds, and providing beds, while nuns baked cakes. Crews led by Davy Jones and Hoss Wilder were honored with parades in Yushan, a testament to the gratitude of the Chinese people. However, aiding the Americans came at a horrific cost. Ma Englin was later captured, tortured, and killed by the Japanese, who wrapped him in a blanket, tied him to a chair, soaked him in kerosene, and forced his wife to set him ablaze. In Nanchang, men who fed airmen were subjected to unspeakable atrocities, and entire villages were decimated. 8 airmen were captured by Japanese forces. 3. Lieutenant Dean Hallmark, Lieutenant William Farrow, and Sergeant Harold Spatz were executed on October 15, 1942, after mock trials. Corporal Jacob DeShazer survived captivity and later returned to Japan as a missionary, inspired by his experiences. Lieutenant Robert Hite and 3 others endured until their liberation in 1945. The Japanese launched the Zhejiang-Jiangxi campaign in reprisal, targeting areas where the airmen had landed. This brutal operation killed an estimated 250,000 Chinese civilians and 70,000 soldiers, destroying villages, contaminating water supplies with biological agents, and leaving a legacy of suffering. Doolittle himself bailed out over China, landing in a rice paddy. Believing the mission a failure due to the loss of all 16 aircraft, he was despondent, expecting a court-martial. Instead, he learned that most of his men had survived and that the raid had struck Japan, boosting American morale. On April 28, 1942, Doolittle was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor and promoted to Brigadier General, a recognition of his leadership and the raid's significance. All 80 raiders received the Distinguished Flying Cross, with additional honors, including Silver Stars for Corporal David J. Thatcher and First Lieutenant Thomas R. White, and decorations from the Chinese government. The Doolittle Raid caused minimal physical damage, easily repaired by Japan, but its psychological and strategic impact was profound. In the United States, news of the strike was met with jubilation, lifting spirits after months of defeats. President Franklin Roosevelt, when asked where the bombers had come from, quipped they flew from Shangri-La, a fictional paradise, adding to the operation's mystique. American morale, still reeling from Pearl Harbor and Japan's territorial gains, soared, and the raid became a rallying cry for recruitment and public support. In Japan, the raid shattered the myth of invincibility. The fact that American bombers could reach the home islands caused alarm among the populace and embarrassment for the military leadership. Japanese officials downplayed the damage, portraying the attack as a cruel assault on civilians, but internally, it prompted a reassessment of defensive strategies. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of the Pearl Harbor attack, accelerated plans to capture Midway Island, aiming to eliminate the American carrier fleet and secure Japan's perimeter. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 4th to 7th, 1942, proved a decisive defeat for Japan, with the loss of 4 aircraft carriers, shifting the Pacific War's momentum to the Allies. The raid's David versus Goliath appeal lies in its audacity. 16 medium bombers, launched from a carrier 650 miles from their target, struck the heart of a seemingly untouchable empire. The B-25 Mitchell, never designed for such a mission, became a symbol of American ingenuity, its crews embodying courage and sacrifice. A famous photograph captures Doolittle's crew standing proudly before their B-25 on the Hornet's deck, a testament to their resolve. Yet, the raid's success came at a cost. The loss of all aircraft, the capture and execution of airmen, and the devastating reprisals against Chinese civilians underscore the complexities of wartime decisions. The Doolittle Raid remains one of the most iconic operations in military history. Its legacy endures in the stories of the 80 raiders, whose bravery inspired a nation, and in the lessons of strategic risk-taking. The raid demonstrated that even in the darkest moments, determination and innovation could alter the course of a war.